In this episode of the Mommas Lounge, I'm chatting with my friend Allie Woodbray. We dive into her breastfeeding and pumping journey, tackle the challenges of reverse cycling, and share how our faith has guided us through our struggle. I hope you enjoy. Hey, welcome to the Mommas Lounge podcast, where we get real about the beautiful chaos of postpartum. I'm your host, Camille Perkins, and I'm happy you're here. We're all about authenticity, the highs, the lows, and the unexpected messy middles. We'll find strength in our faith, embrace our diverse experiences, and love without judgment. So, grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's chat. Hello. Welcome back to the Mommas Lounge podcast. Today, I have one of my really good friends, Allie Woodbray, with me. We've been friends for, 3 years now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So Allie is not only beautiful, but she's super smart. She graduated from BYU with an exercise and wellness degree, and she aspires to eventually go into occupational therapy. We used to live together in the same apartment, so that's how we met. And we were in the same ward, and we just had a lot of fun together. Me, her, and her husband Tyler, and my husband Drew. We would play games, and it was fun. So she's always been one to make me feel super welcome, and she's challenged me to do a lot of hard things. Drew and I trained with her and her husband to run a half marathon a while back, and it was so fun and it was so hard. And I just really appreciate Allie's ability to challenge me so that I can become a better person and believe in myself more and my capabilities. And that's something that I learned from her, is that I can do hard things. She is the type of person that you always want to keep around. Something that I'm super looking forward to is being able to go to the pool this summer and hang out with her husband, my husband, and both of our kids, because she has how old is Benny? 5.5 months?
He's 6 months this week.
This week! He is the cutest, most playful boy, and just has like the biggest smile. He's so cute. And so I'm just really looking forward to hanging out at the pool with you guys, with Janie and Benny, and just splash in the pool. It'll be fun. So
That's gonna be so much fun.
yeah. Is Benny doing any new like milestones now that he's 6 months old? Anything new that he's done in the past couple weeks?
He sits up pretty well on his own now. Like, he's not perfect, but he kinda he'll sit for a couple minutes before he falls over. So that's
Mhm.
cool. And he started rolling over like a month ago, so he does that a lot.
Fun.
And he's sleeping better. That's a big, great milestone.
Janie also started sitting up right before 6 months old. So that's fun that they kinda did that at the same time.
And
And
she
then
sleeps up for a while?
yeah, she can sit up. Well, we still put pillows around her because every now and then she's like gets excited and will fall over. But
Oh,
she's gone 30 minutes at a time just sitting up.
really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Has she
So it's a
started
lot
to
of fun.
try to, move her arms in a way that she can, get up to crawl, you know what I'm saying?
If I like put her down in a crawling position, then she'll hold herself up. And then if she's sitting down, then she'll kind of lean over and grab toys and like use her abs to pull herself back up. And sometimes
Right.
she'll turn and hold herself up. So I guess, yeah.
There, yeah.
Yeah, she's getting close. Which is good. I was worried she wouldn't crawl because she just loves to use her legs. Like she just stands all day.
Dang,
But
strong girl.
yeah. Okay, for today's episode, we are going to be talking a little bit about your story. And go ahead and tell us your birth story and kind of your first month with him and what that was like.
Yeah, so my due date was August 2nd. I had him August 6th, which those 4 days were, the worst days. You know
They're
about that.
literally so hard.
You were, 3 days over, right?
I was
Was it?
4 days over.
Yeah, we were the same. Yeah, that
Mhm.
was rough. So that 4 days felt like 4 years.
Yes, it
But
did.
finally, I went to the hospital. They had to induce me because I wasn't going naturally. Um, and I had a really good experience, honestly. I feel really lucky. It went pretty quick. I got there at 7 AM and had him at 3 PM, so it was
Dang.
yeah, I really the only hard part for me was, around halfway through it. It was, 11 o'clock-ish. I was waiting to get the epidural because the anesthesiologist had a ton going on, and so he, took forever to get there, and so the contractions got, like, pretty painful. And so during that time, it was really rough because I was just, like,
Mhm.
waiting and I kept thinking, "Okay, I'm not gonna have another contraction, like, he's gonna be here before then," and it just kept taking forever. So,
Yeah.
that was the hard part, and then when I got that epidural, I felt a little faint, but then once it kicked in and we got going, then I was totally good, and pushing was, like, 2 hours, I think,
Okay, you
and
pushed for a while too. I pushed for 3 hours, and it is so hard to push that long.
yeah. I really like the way that my nurse did it because she said, like, the first, like, hour and a half of it, she was like, "This is just practice. We're not, like no pressure to get the baby out." She probably knew I was really nervous about it. So she was
Mhm.
like, let's be like, just get him into position. Let's just do it slow." So I didn't even feel like I was pushing for, like, the first bit. So I think that helped me a lot. 'Cause it was definitely hard, but I was expecting it to be more mentally strenuous, but I like the
Mhm.
way that we approached it, like, "Let's just get it ready, get into position."
Yeah, that's
So,
smart.
it was a long time. Like, afterwards, I was like, "Dang, that took that took 2 hours." Then he was here, and it was the best moment ever. It was so sacred to meet my little baby, and is just so much happiness, and you know how it is, like, the second they put
Mhm.
baby on you, it's like you feel this overwhelming sense of love and, like, you would do anything for this little baby that you barely just met, so it was so cool. And then, yeah, the first month was hard. I feel like it is for everybody, like, no sleep
It's
and
so rough.
yeah, just I didn't know what I was doing, and breastfeeding was hard, and sleeping was hard, just all of it, but it was some of the most fun moments too, just, like, cuddling my baby all day long and loving him so much. So, like, the hardest thing I've ever done, but the best thing I've ever done. So
Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
yeah.
I when they put Janie on my chest, I it was kind of a mix of like, "Wow, like, this is my baby," and also like, "What just happened?" It's just kind of a crazy
Yes.
surreal moment, yeah. It's actually kinda hard for me to remember, honestly.
I'm getting some of that too, like, I'm forgetting some little moments, which is so weird because I thought I would never forget that.
I know. Yeah, it's hard
Yes.
to, like, think about all of it. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, if I were to tell my story, which I'll do it on a different episode, I don't even know if I could tell all the details, which is wild because I guess that's why we have more babies because our brain just
Right.
kinda gets rid of it.
And, like, pushing it away so that you are willing to do it again.
Mhm. Okay, so we talked about how, the first month was a little bit hard. Let's talk about what was probably some of the hardest moments that you had, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think the hardest part was, I think, like, day 3 to day 7, like, during that period when I had the hormone crash, I just was bawling my eyes out, mess all the time,
Mhm.
and I don't know, I had some hard moments where okay, before I had him, I expected that when I had him, that I would just know what to do, and, like, the mom instincts would kick in, and I'd be like, "Oh, he's hungry. This'll be easy," or, "Oh, he needs a diaper change." Like, I thought I would know that, but it wasn't like that, and so that
Mhm.
was really hard for me because I was like I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. It's hard. Like, everyone doesn't really know what they're doing, but it's okay. And then just the hormone crash made me so emotional, and I was so scared to do anything, like, go out of my house at all. So that was the hardest part, probably.
Mhm.
But luckily, that only lasted, like, a few days, and then I got, like, better over time. But, yeah, that period like, the first couple days of his life, I was chilling, and then day 3 through 7 was, like, the hardest days of my life. I don't
Just,
know
like,
why.
suddenly was super rough, yeah.
Yeah.
Was that when Tyler went back to work, or was he home during this time too?
Yeah, like, the end of that, like, 6 or 7 days or something like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's
that's all.
interesting how even with, like, someone home, it still feels so hard. Like, I
Yes.
had Drew home for 3 weeks, and he helped a ton, and I even had, like, some my parents come a couple times, and I still was feeling like that, just so,
It's
like, overwhelmed and in my head, like, so much anxiety. Yeah,
it's
it's
like
rough.
some responsibility and you don't know where to start, so it's just a lot.
Yeah. It actually reminds me of a scripture that I was looking at earlier, and I'm gonna try to find it. I'll try to
Do you know
find
what it's
it.
about? I could try to find it too.
So we never actually found the scripture reference, and upon editing this, I decided I really wanted to find it, and I did. So I'm going to share it. It's Helaman 12 in the Book of Mormon, verse 1. It says, "And thus we can behold how false, and also the unsteadiness of the hearts of the children of men. Yea, we can see that the Lord in his great infinite goodness doth bless and prosper those who put their trust in him." And I
Mm.
think it just kind of relates to this because it's so easy for us to think like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. My baby's going to suffer. Like, I'm in charge of this little baby's life and I don't know how to take care of them. What do I do? But then this is kind of like, just trust in me. God knows what he's doing and he's not going to like let you fail. He wanted you to become a mom.
Yeah, that's so good. I felt that a lot at the beginning that he was gonna help me. He did definitely help me. Couldn't have done it without him.
Yeah. In what ways do you feel like the Lord helped you during those moments?
Um, I just feel like I had more strength and energy than I could have normally. Like, just blessed with that somehow. Like, looking back, I don't know how I did that, but I think he was there every step of the way and lots of help and family and friends supporting, um,
Mm-hmm.
which was a blessing as well. So he put people in my life.
Yeah. He sends angels, right?
Definitely felt that.
Good. I'm really glad that we have a belief in God, me and you, because I feel like without that, it would have been so hard to understand why I was suffering and how to get help. But in those moments where I was really scared, I was able to just like remember at least I know that God's going to take care of me. Like that didn't make it any easier. Like I definitely was still scared.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like I was totally in doom, you know.
Mm. Yeah, and I think also something that helped me a lot was, like, I knew God loves me a lot, but he also loves this baby so much. Like, if I can feel so much love for him, God also loves him, so I just tried to hold on to that, like, he's not gonna let me fall, and he also loves this little baby like me even more, so he's not gonna let him fall either. So
Right.
that helped me a lot too during those hard moments.
Good. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your unique breastfeeding experience. This is one of the reasons why I brought you onto my podcast. So, just for my listeners, some context. Me and Allie Marco Polo a ton, and once I had my baby, and then when she had her baby, it was fun to just Marco Polo and like try to talk to each other about help me do this, help me do that. Like, what do I do? Because we both were like trying to figure out our babies and um, just needed each other's expertise. And so, something that's cool about Ali is that she's really, oh, it's be real time. Let's be real this
Okay.
party. And we're going to keep this in the podcast.
Cute.
Cute. Both of us. Cute. Podcasting. Love that. Okay. Anyway, so your experience is unique because you've done a ton of pumping and now are exclusively pumping. And there's lots of reasons for that and lots of things that you learned along the way. And so I just wanted you to, if you could, Allie, just go ahead and share a little bit of your story, why, like, kind of what was happening with Benny and you trying to breastfeed, the different things you tried. Just go ahead and go up to the point of like your struggle with breastfeeding and stuff.
Okay. So his whole life, it's been hard. Um, from like the first week of him being born, he just wanted to feed all day long. And like I would feed him for like an hour and then he wouldn't be full. And so I'd keep feeding him. And it was literally 24 hours a day he wanted to be eating, which was so hard. And at that point, like the hormone crash and all the hard things and no sleep. Anyway, I wasn't doing well. So I went to a lactation consultant. She watched us do it, and she said that he's a really slow eater and he is really inefficient. Like,
Mhm.
he's just not getting very much milk in as he's going. So she recommended, to do kind of a combination of breastfeeding and giving him a bottle. So that's what I did for the first, like, 4 months of his life, and the goal was always to get to the point where we could just breastfeed, but unfortunately, he never he never got there. He never got more efficient at it.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it was a lot of work because it's like I would breastfeed him and then I'd pump and then I'd give him a bottle of pumped milk. So just took a long time. But
Mhm.
then at 4 months, he had a nursing strike. He just refused eating. And I remember I Marco Polo'd you, and I was like, "Do you have any idea what to do? Because
Mhm.
this is rough, and I have no idea." And you gave me a lot of really good ideas. But yeah, that was so hard on me emotionally, and you were such a good friend because you were like, "I would totally that would be so hard if your baby won't do it." And I
Mhm.
remember talking to you, I was like, "Okay, like, I'm not crazy for being stressed, like, this is hard."
No, yeah. I really believe that breastfeeding is something that's special, and for a lot of people, they want to be able to do it because it's special, right? And so,
Yeah.
struggling with it and having to eventually give it up is difficult. It's hard, for a
Yeah.
lot of people. For some people, it's not, but for a lot of people, it's hard. And so, when you were talking to me about it, I was like, "Oh, she's probably feeling so sad." So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's important that for anyone who's listening, if you're struggling with breastfeeding or had to give it up for some reason and you felt guilty about it, totally valid, super sad, but also know that you're doing the right thing, keeping your baby full and fed, and that's a happy thing. So,
Yeah, for sure. It was really sad, but like you said, and then you gotta do what's best for your baby. But
mm,
luckily, after that nursing strike, um, I went to another lactation consultant, and they recommended just not trying for a couple days, like, don't breastfeed at all for a couple days, and then slowly reintroduce him to it. So I did that, and miraculously, he did it again after that. And for about a month, he kept breastfeeding, but it was never the same. Like, he kind of he would do it for a few minutes and then he'd start getting upset. But I was just happy that he was doing it because
mhm,
it's sport, like you said, it's hard to give up. So I was just like, no, this is fine. Like, I don't care if he's getting full. He's never gotten full off of breastfeeding. So like, it's nice to just have that bonding time. But then at about 5 months, so a month ago, he pretty much just stopped. Like, I kept trying and he just wasn't interested, and I
mhm,
think it was probably frustrating for him because he wasn't fulfilling his hunger when he was eating, so he just, like, didn't really want to. Um, but it wasn't as sad as I thought to completely finish because I had kind of already mourned it once. Like, I thought it
right.
was over at 4 months, so then when it was over at 5 months, I was, like, just grateful that I had the time, you know? So, it was sad, but I just decided to just pump and give him bottles, and that's what we've been doing, and he's way happier. He's, like, in a better mood when he's eating, which is great, helps me not be as stressed too. So, in the end, it was what we needed to do, even though it was kinda sad, and we never really got the hang of it, but every baby's different. Everybody's
Mhm.
situation is different.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I'm glad that you eventually figured out what to do, right? And that you've decided to land on something. Um, and when you had Marco Polo'd me about how you weren't breastfeeding anymore, I thought you had gone to formula. So then when you had told me, "Actually, no, I'm exclusively, pumping," I was excited to talk to you about it. But before we, jump into your exclusively pumping journey and, like, what that's like now, I also want to hear more details about his sleeping habits because I remember you had talked to me about um, that because his eating was struggling, his sleeping also kind of floundered. So tell me more about that too.
Yeah, during that time when I was sort of breastfeeding him and sort of giving him bottles. I started just giving him bottles in the middle of the night because it was just too exhausting to do all of it. So I would
Mhm.
just give him bottles, and he got in this weird habit of only eating during the night and, like, hardly at all during the day. Like, there was a couple times that he would eat, like, 10 ounces at one time in the middle of the night, which is, like, a
A
lot
lot.
for 4 or 5-month-old. And he would do that, like, 3 times. So he was getting, like, all of the milk during the night. And so
That's crazy.
each feeding during the day, he'd only have, like, 2 ounces tops, and he would spit it all out. So I was like it was hard because during the day, he wouldn't eat, and I was just trying to get him to.
You're like, "Are
Um
you starving? What's going on?"
yeah. And then it made it also so he wasn't sleeping because 'cause he'd just be eating the whole time. He was supposed to be sleeping. and then I was not happy because I wasn't sleeping, so I called the doctor about it, and they told me about reverse cycling, which was what he was doing is he was thinking that nighttime was the time to eat and not during the day, and
Mhm.
also he was, like, eating so much at night for comfort, so he just kept going and going and going. That's why he would eat 10 ounces sometimes. So they said I needed to just slowly push him out and never give him more than 6 ounces in the middle of the night. And, so, like, he was eating every 3 hours, so they're like, "Okay, tonight do 3.5 hours, tomorrow do 4 hours." And usually, like, the longest I'll go is, like, 6 hours in the middle of the night. But yeah, I just kinda slowly pushed him out so he wasn't eating so much, and then, like, after he ate 6 ounces, I would just put him down and, slowly got him used to falling back asleep without drinking all the milk in the world.
Yeah.
So, it was kind of rough, like, the first few days because we kinda did sleep training mixed with that, so just kinda teaching him how to sleep at night and how to eat during the day, but yeah, we were able to fix it, and now he eats so much better in the day, and he usually eats only once at night, which is pretty great.
Yeah. You get more sleep and you're happy.
Oh, yeah.
Big deal, right?
Yes.
Something I'm curious about is after when you first started, like, trying to get it back to normal, when you would like, let's say you fed him 6 ounces that first time, and then you took it away, was he crying at that point?
I think usually he just was kind of fussy a little bit because like, his stomach was full, but he
Right.
wasn't, like, completely comforted. So, I'm trying to remember. That wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was, like, pushing the time out, I feel like.
Oh, was
But
it?
I
Yeah.
think once he got to 6 ounces, he was, like he was more chill, and
Mhm.
then I just helped him get back to bed, and then he was okay. But yeah,
Okay,
pushing
so
out that, like, how long it was, that's when he would cry, and that's when he was upset because he's like, "Hey, usually you're feeding me right now. Why aren't you feeding?"
mhm. Yeah. So, I just asked the question because 'cause we're doing the same thing with Janie, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
were close to getting her to sleep for longer than 3 hours, but something kept getting in the way. For context for my listeners, Janie's been eating every 2 hours ever since day 1, all the way up until 6.5 months. So, I was really tired. And it
Yeah.
was 2 hours throughout the day, every 2 hours throughout the night. So we started doing exactly what Allie's talking about, which is called night weaning, when you, like, extend the time
Mhm.
so that they don't get comfort right from bottle or breast, and it's so hard because as soon as we get ready to do more than 2 hours and 45 minutes, something happens. So,
Yeah.
like, 2 weeks ago, we she was starting to do 3 hours on her own, but then she got sick, and so I was like, "Okay, like, I'm not gonna force my baby to, like, not
Yeah.
eat food when they're, like, snotty and, like, has a fever," you know? So I
Yeah.
just started feeding her every as soon as she would wake up, and it was usually 2.5 hours, so she's starting to do better anyways. And this is something that I'd actually am curious to know if it happens to you, especially since you pump. Another thing that would get in the way of me being able to night wean Janie is that when I start my period, my milk, like, goes away.
Really?
Uh-huh. It's not gone, like, I'm not dried up, but, like, I can like, if I were to pump right now, I would only get out maybe an ounce,
Hmm.
um, instead of the usual, 3 or 4 ounces that I get out when I pump. Sometimes only 2, I don't know. I'm weird with pumping because I never do it. Um,
Nice.
and I need to do more because when I need to, like, get a babysitter, I'm like, "I have no milk for you. I need to pump, like, right now." It's so stressful. Anyways, this last week, I was like, "Okay, starting tomorrow, we're gonna push to, like, 3 hours and 15 minutes, like, we're gonna, like, push it." And then my milk started to go away, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have like, my breasts aren't full." And so now I'm like, "Oh, man, it's happening again." But last night did really good. I decided to start feeding her on both sides. So it's funny. For more context, Janie is basically the opposite of Benny. She's extremely efficient. And
Yeah.
so Janie only eats for, like, 3 minutes because
Mhm.
she just gets the milk out. So I've only ever done 1 breast, but, something I've learned is on my period, if I do both sides, then she gets enough milk.
Hmm. Interesting. I haven't heard of that before. That's
Yeah,
no fun.
kinda
So you
weird.
have to a little bit of formula if you're on your period?
Um, nope, because I want to make sure that I don't understimulate my breasts because then I could dry up.
Mhm.
So, basically, I just feed her more often. So, like, today I have fed her, like, anytime she's fussy, pretty much, to just really try to keep up
Hmm,
the stimulation on my breast so that they don't think that it's time to peace out.
dang.
Uh,
Wow, that's a
yeah.
lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and it's
Wow.
annoying because it happens every period. So I've had 3 periods now, and every single
Oh,
time, it's, like, 2 days before my period, my milk, like, slowly goes away, and then, like, during my period, for the first 3 days, it's, like, gone, and then, like,
hmm,
it slowly starts to come back. It's kinda weird
wow, that is really weird. I'm sorry.
and stressful because I'm like, "Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, my milk's gonna go away." But then we're
well,
fine.
just magically comes back.
I was just saying with night weaning, I feel like I've had somewhat of a similar experience where, like, the extending the time is the hardest because when you're, like, force them to wait, they just cry and cry and cry, and I always try to have Drew do it so that she doesn't smell the milk that's inside of me, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, she just really struggles to fall asleep with Drew, and I think it's because she knows that
Oh,
she's not gonna get milk from him, but
that's funny. She's smart.
I know, silly girl.
Yes. Yeah, that is no fun. Tyler definitely did, like, the hardest part for the first couple of days. Like, whenever he was crying, I was like, "'Kay, I'm leaving." Like, "I need to
Mhm.
go. Can't hear this. You'll just make sure he's okay." So, yeah, I feel like he only cried, like, super hard for, like, the first couple days, and then he would have his moments, but
Mhm.
it was it wasn't, like, scream crying, which is like, that just breaks a mama's heart. That's so hard to listen to. My
Yeah.
gosh.
It is so
Ugh.
hard to listen to, it drives you crazy. It sounds like something that sounds different from what I've been doing, what you've been doing is you sounds like you extended the time a lot quicker, so, like, each night you did an extra 30 minutes, is that what you did?
Yeah, because I guess that's another difference is he has usually eaten every 3 to 3.5 hours his whole life, so it's been a
Mhm.
little longer anyway, and he from, like, month 2 to 3, he had a period of time where he was sleeping, like, 5 or 6 hours straight, so I knew he could do it, like, he could sleep longer, he just was getting in the habit of like, his eating schedule was
Right.
back. So, that's why I probably would have done it slower, but I knew that he could and that he's done it before, so I was confident that he wasn't gonna starve. Because that's, like, the hardest part, I feel like, is you're sitting there, your baby's crying, you're like, "Are they starving?" Like, "Oh, I
Mhm.
don't wanna, like, make my baby deficient of nutrients, right?" So, yeah, that's why we were able to do it so fast. So, yeah, it was a couple hard days, but once he got past, like, 4 hours, it was a lot better, and
Yeah.
right now, he's usually sleeps from, like, 8 p.m. to 3 or 4 a.m., and then he'll eat, and then he'll wake up again at, like, 7 or 8, so it's awesome.
That's great. That's super
Yeah,
awesome.
instead of being up all night eating, like, 30 ounces during the night. So it's
Yeah,
so much.
that's so nice. So I think that's something that I wanna do is I think I wanna start doing a little bit quicker, maybe every 2 days, just because Janie
Yeah,
hasn't ever gone that long before.
right.
But I think because what I've been doing is literally taking a whole week for each change, and I think it's
Oh,
too long because if we do that, something's gonna get in the way, like, she's gonna get sick or my milk is gonna go away because my period is every month, right?
right, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I
you can
wonder
try just doing, like, 2 days for each time and then 2 days longer,
yeah.
whatever you think. It's so hard to figure out. So much
Yeah.
trial and
Yeah, so much trial and error, and I feel like that's something that hopefully our listeners will get from hearing this podcast is everybody's journey is so different because every
mhm,
mom is different and every baby's different.
yeah.
And so, like, it's just trial and error, trying to figure out what works for you.
I remember talking to you when our babies were a lot younger, and Benny was still taking, like, at least an hour to eat, and you're like, "Jamie has never ate for more than, like, 8 minutes." And I was
Mhm.
like, "What? That's crazy." Like, my life was just, like, feeding him for an hour. But then you had, like, other struggles because she was eating so quickly, so it was more often, but then for me, it was, like, he was taking forever, but it was less often, so I don't know, it's just crazy how different each baby is.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we don't, like, compare ourselves in a way that it's like, "Oh, like, I should be more like that mom," right? Like, "Oh, Janie should take longer to feed. Why isn't she taking longer to feed? What's wrong with her?" Or, "Why isn't Benny eating faster? There's something wrong with him, blah, blah, blah." But,
Yeah.
like, you just gotta figure out, like, what's best for you. That is something I'm curious about now that he does bottle, how long does it take him to eat?
So much faster. Usually 10 to 20 minutes.
Cool.
So, that's still a lot for you. Like, well, I'll be so curious, like, when we both have our next kid, if
Mhm,
those habits are gonna be the same, or if it's just because of the baby, or if it has something to do with, like, our milk. We'll
mhm.
see. But,
Yeah.
yeah, it is better now, and very happy about that.
It's wild to think that eventually we'll have a second child.
Mm.
I, like,
Yep.
can't think about it right now.
It's too
Uh,
crazy.
it's
It's
wild.
far down the road.
I know. Anyways,
That's
side tangent. I now wanna talk about, exclusively pumping. You've told me the story of when you decided to exclusively pump with, like, Tyler, and I'd love it if
Mm.
you shared that story with our listeners.
Oh, yeah. We were in that stage where I he was still breastfeeding, but he wasn't that happy about it, and I was just happy that he was doing it a little bit, but it was still a struggle, like, he usually was kicking and trying to get away, and I remember I was, like, sitting on the couch trying to breastfeed Benny, and my husband Tyler was here, and I was stressed trying to get him on, and Benny was, like, crying and not wanting to do it, and Tyler just looked at us and he was like, "I don't think either of you are really happy right now. Like, why are you doing this?" So then, like, we took a step back and I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is" like, the reason I was doing it was for, like, that bonding experience, but honestly, it was kind of, like,
Mm,
more stressful than comforting for both of us. So, Tyler was, like, a big help in that decision because I just wanted to hold on to it for as long as I could, and it was nice to have, like, an outsider perspective, seeing, like, this is not really going that well. And he was like, "Pumping is just so much easier for you. Why don't you just do that?" So, that's pretty much when I started just pumping, and yeah, it's just so much better. He eats better, I'm
mhm.
happier, more sleep, all the good things.
Yeah, I remember when you told me that story, I was like, "Wow, Tyler is a good he's a good one, a good husband," because he wasn't
Yes.
he wasn't just kinda sitting there thinking like, "Oh, like, I'll just let my wife figure it out." He saw his family and the needs that you both had, and I like that you pointed out that he saw, like, you both aren't really enjoying this.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just about your experience, it's about you and Benny, right? And
Mhm.
so I think it's really cool that Tyler was able to help you step back and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that's something that if there's ever something in my motherhood journey in the future where there's a struggle, right? To just take a step back and think, what is going to be best for us right now? And
Yeah.
and to not judge what that might be because it's easy to think, "Oh, well, I know what's best for my child or I know what's best for us." But sometimes stepping back will help us realize, "Oh no, like something else is going to be better just cuz other people might think this is better. They don't know us and our experience, right?"
Yeah, I totally agree, and I feel like social media and all that out there makes you feel like if you don't breastfeed or if you don't do something a certain way that you're terrible and your child is gonna die or like
Mhm.
just terrible things. But it's like everybody figures out what's best for them and you just do what you can. And so I was grateful that he encouraged me because that was a big reason why I didn't stop is because I was like, everybody else is breastfeeding just fine. Like, why can't I do it? And like I
Mhm.
should be normal. What's wrong with me? And he was, like, just helping me see that that's not what mattered, like, me and Benny weren't happy, so let's make us happy and not think about what other people might think.
Yeah,
So,
100%. Um,
yeah.
so that leads me to the next question is how did you decide to exclusively pump and give breast milk instead of just formula feed?
Basically just 'cause I made good milk and cheaper. It's
Way
just
cheaper.
I
Oh my
guess it's
gosh.
not cheaper, but it's a lot cheaper, and, yeah, my body was fine with it, so I was like, "Why not? We'll just keep it
Mhm.
going, and it's good for you, I think." Right?
Probably. I think so.
Yeah.
And the breast milk's good for your baby too.
Yeah, for sure. So it just made sense. Like, if I dried out, then obviously that'd be different, but still had milk, so just decided to keep going with that.
Yeah, I think it's actually really cool that, like, we produce milk. It's something that's, like, I never want it to end. 'Cause I
Mhm.
think it's so, like, legit. Like, it's so cool that I can produce this fluid that's, like, super heroic in its nutrient
Yeah.
value. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
and it
pretty
gives
cool.
them everything they need. It's pretty
Mhm.
amazing.
It's pretty cool. So I wanted to ask, what feelings did you experience after you made the change? Both good and bad.
It's a little bit sad. I felt a little bit like I failed,
Mhm.
but I just kept reminding myself, like, I was doing the best thing for me and my baby. And mostly I just felt like I was doing the right thing. Outside of those emotions, I, like, felt like that was the right answer for us, and I had been thinking and praying about it for so long, and so it just kind of once it was time, you know? Like, I just
Mhm.
needed that, and I felt really happy because he was eating better, and it wasn't so stressful. The other thing, like, going in public and trying to breastfeed was so rough because he was just screaming and kicking, and it was just hard, and so I that was comforting to know that when I went out, like, I could just use a bottle and it'd be chill. So just so many things just were taken off my back when we did that. So, yeah,
Cool.
it got better, and now I'm just happy about it, like,
I'm so glad
we're
you're happy about it,
yeah.
'cause I want you to be happy.
Thanks.
I like how you mentioned that you, prayed about it a lot. That's something that I've told you, Allie, before, that I just wanna reiterate to mamas listening is you can pray about things like this, right? You can pray and ask God to help you find direction when it comes to things like breastfeeding or sleep habits or, I don't know, other things that babies need help with, milestones. All those things that are make us stressful, God wants to help us with. And so,
Yes.
definitely remember that we can pray about anything like that.
Yeah, for sure. He cares about your baby, he cares about you. And even though, like, you probably look back and be like, "Oh, I don't know why I was so stressed about that. It all turned out okay," but he's there for you in those little moments. So,
Mhm.
definitely agree.
Amen. Okay, so talking about pumping again, since we didn't actually ever get there. Tangents. Um, so this is actually straight up advice for me because I wanna get better at pumping. I want to pump more often so that I don't get stressed when I need a babysitter because I've
Mhm.
noticed that I just straight up am like, "Oh, I don't need to go to that activity because I don't wanna pump milk." Like, it's, like, gotten that bad. And it's
Mhm.
because pumping has, like, I don't know. I don't know if I just have a bad system, but I feel so immobile and I feel like I can never get the pumps clean in
Yeah,
time to be pumping again, you know?
that was
And it's just not comfortable. Anyways, so I just have a couple questions like, what have you noticed helps you stay on top of pumping so often? How do you make it a better experience for yourself? Have you noticed anything that helps you pump better? That kind of stuff.
um, pretty much the only thing that helps me stay on top of it is I know there's no other way.
That's true.
Like, I mean, well, obviously there is, like, I can give him formula, but it's like, nobody else can do this. It's a big responsibility. You just have to do it. Like, I have motivation to pump is just because that's what my baby needs. And I'm the one that has the milk, and so I need to, like, stay on top of his eating. So, yeah, and I've been doing that ever since he was so little, so it's just kinda, like, totally normal to me.
True.
I feel like the hardest part about pumping when I first started was that, like, it just took so much time that I didn't have and, like, blood into my sleeping time and everything. So what I've done that has helped a ton is I always pump while I'm giving him a bottle. So it's like I would
Okay.
be sitting down anyway, and I have a setup on my couch. It's always there. My pump is in the corner, and then I have a little place for him to lay and like his burp cloth and everything. So it's like all my stuff is there. So like it's almost as if that's, like, the normal breastfeeding time. Because I pump for 15 minutes, I give him a bottle for that same 15 minutes. So it feels, like, a lot more efficient. But at the beginning, I really struggled to figure that out, especially because I was breastfeeding him as well. So it just felt like it took all my time. So, I don't know, doing that, like, finding a good way to, like, make time for it has helped a lot. And, yeah, I have a nice pump, it's the Spectra 2. I feel like a lot of people like that one. So, it works really well. I do it, like, usually 5 times a day, once
Okay,
in the middle of the night and then, like, 4 times during the day hours usually. So that means, like, every 3 or 4 hours during the day, which is about when he eats. So, I feel like at his stage right now, it's not too stressful because 'cause I'm doing it anyway. I also have a
mhm,
wearable pump that I recently got where you don't have to be plugged into the wall. So that's nice, like, if I'm not feeding him and I'm, like, wanting to be moving around or, like, cleaning or whatever, I can just wear it so that it doesn't take so much time.
good.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does, and it's so smart. I hadn't thought of the whole let him eat while you pump because it's at
Yeah,
like as if you were breastfeeding him, right? You're doing it at the same
yeah.
time. That's
Which
really
wouldn't
cool.
work for you because you breastfeed primarily.
'Cause my problem is I never know when to pump because if I pump right before, then she doesn't get her milk, but if I pump right after, there's, like, nothing. So if I pump an
Mhm,
hour later, but then she's hungry in an hour, and I
mhm.
can't, like, make enough milk by then.
Yeah.
So it's been hard for me to figure out when to pump, and maybe that's something I Google on Reddit or something.
Yeah. If you pump, like, immediately after she's done, does anything come at all? On the
I
other
haven't
side?
I haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah. So then by the time she starts again, it's full,
Yeah,
maybe. That's what I
yeah.
did at the beginning, but he didn't eat as often, so yeah, I don't know.
And I'm glad you said which pump you have because I'm looking into getting a different pump because I currently have this really tiny pump called the I don't know, like the Amadella or something. It's,
Okay.
like, literally, like, this big. And it's battery powered that you, like, can charge.
Yeah,
And then I also have, 2 wearable pumps that are also battery powered, and I've never
okay.
been able to pump very much, and I think it's just because the power of them are, like, awful.
Yeah, you have to have a good suction strength. You should try the Spectra too.
Yeah, I'll get
Yep.
into it.
Yeah.
Sponsored. No, it's not.
They should sponsor me. I'm like their biggest user.
So funny. Well, now everyone knows. Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing. Um,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask one more question, then we'll be done. Do you ever find yourself still floundering from time to time? Just, like, having a little bit of a postpartum slump? And if so, what helps you when you are in that stage?
100% for sure. Feel like maybe at least weekly, I have a moment or 2. I think the biggest help is taking a step back and, like, doing something for yourself. Honestly, a lot of the times doing that is just, like, taking a shower
Yeah,
or just, like, having a little bit of time just to, like, read my scriptures or read a book or something, like, doing something that relaxes me, and then also asking for help. Like, that's been a big lesson that's been
big.
hard for me to learn, but even though, like, my husband is great and he's really helpful anyway, sometimes I just feel like I need to do it all, I don't know if you ever
Yeah.
feel like this, like, I
Oh,
should be
yeah.
able to do this all, why do I need help? So yeah, asking for his help and, like, my mom's help and that kind of thing, because everybody loves you and wants to help, and your baby, it's just hard
And your
to.
baby's cute, like, they
Yeah. Right.
they want to help.
Mhm. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that's, like, the thing that's helped me the most is a little bit of a break and then asking for help. But, yeah,
yeah.
I still have moments, and it's hard.
Mhm.
Postpartum is.
Postpartum is so tough. Yeah. And I like that, you talked about, like, asking for help because sometimes it's easy to think, like, for me at least, I'm like, "Can't people see that I'm struggling?" And I'm like, "No, probably not, because 'cause I'm not telling them that I'm struggling." So,
Right.
be
And everybody
more open.
struggles way too with postpartum, I feel
Mhm.
like, so it's tough. But, yeah, letting people know, and I feel like just like me and you, what we've done, like, just talking on Marco Polo and trying to help each other with the different struggles we've had.
Mhm.
Like, just that kind of thing is really helpful as well, to know you're not alone and
Yeah,
a little
finding a chat buddy,
yeah.
someone that you can relate to, definitely. And, hopefully this podcast is a way for people to kind of feel that, right? That, like, there's other mamas out there that struggle all the time, and that means they're not
Yes,
alone. Yeah.
for sure.
Alright, well, I guess I'll let you go snuggle your Benny boy. We'll have to visit sometime. I'm super excited to hang out with you again. It's been a while, but
Yeah,
thanks for
for
coming
sure.
on. You're
Yes,
awesome, and listeners, if there was any takeaway from this, for me, it's just remembering that it's all gonna work out. Um, Sometimes we get caught up in all of these little things that happen in motherhood, but it works out. We figure it out. God will help you get there. So,
for sure.
yeah.
I agree.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you
thank
guys.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun.
See you later.
Guys, see ya, bye.